What is up, people? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, as always. If you're new here, again, my name's still Eric. Today I got just a walk I usually like to do when I'm here in Shenzhen. Show you guys what's new or what's on the road in China, in Shenzhen, which is like a EV owner paradise, really. There's so many different EVs, electric cars, so many new models on the road, like it's ridiculous. So I'm gonna turn the camera around and we're gonna talk. And it's gonna be a little different from what I've done before, where we've gone out here and we've counted one by one, like what cars we see. Of course, you guys are more than welcome to count. But what I wanna do more than that is, I don't know, talk about what I've seen, what's new. I've only been back in China for a couple of days and I've seen quite a bit of new cars out here. I also wanna talk about the ET5 versus the ET7. I did an ET5 test drive just yesterday, actually, and you may have seen that already. I don't know. I'm sure that'll be up before this video goes up. So a few other things I want to talk about Thailand, talk about my plans here, talk about NIO houses. So we're gonna start with NIO ET5 versus NIO ET7. So, as you probably might know, I did drive an ET7 for a month in Europe. I subscribed to the car for a month and I really, really loved that car. It was a fantastic car. And then yesterday I did a test drive of the ET5 and get across here. And the car was good. And I know a lot of people, like I know on Mr. P's channel, he's definitely talked before about why would anybody buy an ET7 when they can get an ET5. And honestly, in my opinion, I would go for an ET7. The ET7 is just far more comfortable. Not just, you know, the materials are better and all that sort of thing, but it's just the cockpit's more comfortable. Not just because there's a heads-up display, but just like the seats are more comfortable, in my opinion. You have more adjustment on them. Here's a VOYAH. This one might be fully electric. They also have plug-in hybrids. So let's walk through the parking lot, why not? So the ET5, you know, I found it a little bit cramped. Oh, not a good parking lot here. Go back out here. I found it a little bit cramped in all areas, all seats. Hold on, microphone falling off. Okay, back seat. The headroom wasn't that great. Some people might know I'm 5'11", about 179 centimeters. So the headroom wasn't that great. The legroom was okay, not terrible. But the ET7, of course, is a longer car. Has back seat functions, heating and ventilation and massage. It also has more space for your legs. Also, I felt like it had more space for my head, but I don't know. I didn't measure it. I know people complain ET7 also doesn't have enough head space in the back, and people have said that their legs are too high because of the changeable battery pack, but I find the ET7 to be just fine. Here's a Lixiang 1 parked there. And the ET5, I felt like it was a little bit small. Especially like, passenger seat was fine. You saw me bump my knee. Oh, you haven't seen it yet, but I bumped my knee because the seat was too far forward. But once you put it back, I think it's fine. I would say that the driver's seat totally feels a little bit compact, a little bit claustrophobic. A few Teslas, obviously, and here is a Xpeng P5. So Xpeng, since I've left, hasn't been doing so well. So ET5, yeah, I mean, for the price, I think it's great. And if you're a smaller person or you're a girl, I think it's doing really well with women. I think it's great. But for my money, I think I would go with the ET7 simply for the comfort. Even though I don't like how long the car is when I'm driving it, it's just more comfortable to drive. The suspension's better, the seats are more comfortable. It's more functionality, and you know, even the performance is 3.7 or 3.6 seconds, 0 to 100, which obviously you're not slamming on the gas all the time. You know, I think maybe acceleration is a little bit overrated, despite being really fun. People really seem to care about that, but it's not that important. And there's functionally no difference between 3.6, 3.7 seconds versus 4.0 of the ET5. But I would argue that ET5 feels faster just because it doesn't have such finely tuned air suspension, so soft, so smooth, so comfortable. You get more of a jolt in the ET5. So that's my 2 cents on ET5 versus ET7. I think it's no surprise the ET5 is doing very well for the price point, but it's more shocking to me the ET7 isn't doing as well. But I do think it'll pick up. You know, it's another thing we can talk about is the Chinese economy. So if we have time today, we'll talk about that too, and what I've seen so far since I have been back, which hasn't been very long. Another Tesla, always lots of Tesla. So what's new since I've left and come back in 7 months is the BYD Seal has come out, and I've only seen one so far on the road, even though that car is also supposedly doing very well. You see tons of these Aions or Aions, Guangqi. You see tons of them. Before there used to be a lot as well, but now they have this new model. It's kind of like a hatchback looking thing, and there's tons of them, and they are doing very well. Like there's one right here, not quite the one I'm talking about, but there are a lot of them. You see Trumpchi, Aion, and here, what is this one? Not even sure. I don't know what car that is. Anyway, if you're new to China, if you're new to this channel, you don't know, China has green plates for EVs or for plug-in hybrids, so it makes it really easy to spot them. You got blue plates for other cars. There's probably a plug-in hybrid BMW, I think. Let's go back to the road. So where was I? I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, what's new? BYD Seal. I've only seen, I believe, one. I might have seen actually, I saw a blue one and then it was coming back like 5 minutes later. So it might have been two, because I didn't check the number plate, but they were like basically the same neighborhood I was walking, and I saw a BYD Seal twice in about 5 minute span. So I may have seen two, but I'm not 100% sure there. I've seen quite a few ET5s. I've seen a lot of ES7s or EL7s, which again is maybe odd because it's not selling as well as the ET5, but who knows. Shenzhen, here's another Aion. There's an Xpeng, but it's a test drive vehicle, G9. That's actually the first one I've seen. So there's a mall up here, and there's a Xpeng shop in there and a NIO shop, and a Lishang shop, and lots of other cars. I think there's a VOYAH free shop in there. Anyway, that's my first G9 I've seen, so that's cool. So I've seen quite a few ES7s, quite a few ET5s. But so Shenzhen, okay guys, let's talk about Shenzhen. Shenzhen is one of China's tier 1 cities, and that means there's a lot of money here. NIO ES6 or ES8. ES6. There's a lot of money here, generally speaking. Tier 1 cities are the most wealthy, most advanced Chinese cities, which means people can afford cars. A lot of people can afford EVs. And it makes it a good place to spot EVs. So here's a BYD, there's a Mercedes, another BYD. And then this one is, what is that logo? Beijing? Chicha? I forget. There's too many cars. Oh, that's Geely. Geely, okay. There's too many EVs out these days. It's almost impossible, even if you're a person that tries to follow it. Like, I don't read about EVs all the time, but try to follow a little bit about what's out there. And as you can see, tons of these Guangqi, Trumpqi, Aions. They're everywhere these days. Another one here, there. No, that one's Beijing Chicha. Here's one. And then what is this one right here? Another one right here, the black one. So no BYD seals yet, and no ET5s yet. So Shenzhen, a lot of money here. People can afford EVs, which makes it a great place to spot EVs. But you might notice, again, if you're new to this channel, you might notice there's not any Wuling mini EVs. There's not any of the BaoJun small EVs. A lot of those micro neighborhood EVs are not present here in Shenzhen. Even though those are the best-selling cars pretty much in the whole entire world, or at least all of China, even though that is the case, you don't really see them here in Shenzhen. It's very rare. And that's because, hey, people in Shenzhen that can afford to buy a car, they usually buy a nice car. What is this one? Indrive. I don't think I've ever heard of this one. Tianbiao? I'm not sure what that says. Tian something. What is this car? Whoever's made it this far, tell me what this is, because I have no idea. Oh, and there's a Link & Co over there. So while we're walking today, I do hope to see a HiPhi Z, because those have launched. HiPhi X is a really interesting car, I would say. Not my favorite car of all time, but interesting. You do see a few of them on the road from time to time. But the HiPhi Z looks pretty cool, and that has launched already. So we may see one. I've yet to see one since I've been back. But that would be a cool thing to spot. If you've joined me on this walk before, generally speaking, mostly what you see is BYD, followed probably by Tesla, and then tons of Chinese brands like I talked about Aion, like Trumpqi. But today it seems like almost everything is Trumpqi, Guangqi, Aion. I don't know what to call it. I guess Aion's good enough, right? Oh. And one interesting thing about those Aions is tons of them I have seen being used as DDs or Ubers. Just like I've talked about before, a lot of BYD Han are used as Ubers. Usually the BYD Han or the Xpeng P7 are used as DD Premier or that sort of thing, that equivalent, where it's like a nice version of Uber. Fancier type car, you pay more for it. I'm not sure if Aions are also the same case. I don't think they are, because honestly they're usually come in white. If you haven't noticed, almost all of them are white. And that doesn't mean necessarily they're gonna be a DD or an Uber, but oftentimes that seems to be the case, because I see people A, driving with a mask on, and B, driving people in the back seat. And you know, these days I would say that driving with a mask on, if you look around, is generally not really done anymore. China's coming out of zero COVID at last. Things are getting back to normal, which is great. And a lot of people don't even wear masks in public now. It's very interesting. Changed very quickly, I think. After the lockdowns ended, after zero COVID ended, people were ready to move on. But you do see still taxi drivers and DD drivers are still wearing masks. Like this Xpeng P7 right there, definitely a DD Premier. The driver had like a vest. You probably couldn't see it, but he had a vest on and a mask on. There's somebody sitting in the back seat. Another Li 1. I haven't seen too many of the Li 8s and Li 9s that have come out since I've been gone. There's one in the neighborhood where I'm staying that's like two-tone black and white. I've seen it a couple times. And it's a Li 9. Looks pretty cool actually. But it's just amazing how in China here, different cities kind of have the lock on different cars and different brands. Like down here, you don't see a ton of Row, which is owned by Shanghai Chicha, I think. But up in Shanghai, you see them, they're all taxis and cars everywhere. But down here in Guangdong, where you have BYD, well, everywhere in China you get a lot of BYD. But like, okay, let's go out to Guangxi where they make the BaoJun. You see a lot of BaoJun, of course. Kind of different cities, different provinces have their different favorite cars. I did mention when I was driving across China before, in Chongqing in Western China, you see tons of Li Shang 1s. And I think that's because the distances are more vast out there and people are more worried about having enough range to get places. There's less infrastructure out there, at least there was 2 years ago. So a lot of people were buying hybrid car. But here in city, a lot of people opt for fully electric. So you don't see as many Lis in Shenzhen as you do in, say, Chongqing or Chengdu, or even Qinghai or far western China. Whereas out there, you don't see that many NIOs. You don't see as many Teslas. You don't see as many of the fully electric cars. Although that might be changing. I'm sure it probably is, because China does change quite rapidly. So here's another NIO. Here's a Beijing Chicha, BYD. Oh, this might be a BYD seal coming. Maybe? Is that a seal? Yeah, that's a BYD seal. There you go, blue one again. So that might be even the same blue one I've seen before. There we go, first BYD seal, exciting. Still no ET5s and no ET7s. So, okay, so that's cars. Hope I didn't bore you to death. Now let's talk about what I'm seeing from the economy out here. Another NIO. And, you know, of course there's gonna be kind of maybe a little lull, a little bit to take time to get things back to the way they used to be after COVID's finally done here. But, man, you might remember I did a little walk around a shopping center in the neighborhood, you know, 7-8 months ago before I left China. And there was lots of shops that were closed, lots of empty shops that were still open, but just empty. And I hate to say it, but things seem to be even worse now. And like, again, retail isn't necessarily an indicator of like disaster on the horizon or anything like that. But for the first 7-8 years I spent in China, in Shanghai or any tier 1 city, as soon as shops were vacant, people would swoop them up, take them, and they would renovate and build something new. Places didn't sit vacant for a long time. But now, you know, I'll take you on a walk around that same shopping center I took you before, where I showed you that there was a lot of vacant shops. It's much worse now. A lot of people were saying it's because that's an old shopping center, but I can take you to multiple shopping centers, which I'll probably do here in the coming days. You know, I won't be in China too long, but I will try to make as much content as I can, because I think people kind of like China. There's another NIO. Kind of like learning about NIO. They kind of like learning about China from hopefully not a super biased source. Of course, I do like China. I spent 10 years of my life here, but I'm not oblivious to all of its failings or problems or potential problems. And I want to show you how it really is. And Shenzhen barely even reflects how China really is, to be honest with you, because Shenzhen's a new city, a modern city. You know, it's only been around for 30 years, and it's basically Silicon Valley of China. So it's hard to get a real read on what is actually happening in China just by hanging around Shenzhen. But you can get a little bit of an idea. So I would say it's no surprise to me that car sales have been kind of taking a hit. There hasn't been that much demand here early on since post-COVID. You know, people were finally out doing stuff again. But it's definitely not like it was 4, 5, 6 years ago. There's a VW. Is that the first one we've seen? ID4? You don't see too many of those out here. But yeah, I'll stick around this channel. If you haven't subscribe, because I will take you to some shopping malls here in the next day or two. And it'll be fun. We can see what's actually happening in the shopping malls and if business is thriving again or not. I would say it doesn't feel like it. So here we got a Li 9, I believe, purple one coming. I can't zoom any further. You can see the LiDAR on top like the NIO, that purple one right there. I think it's a Li 9. Another Xpeng. If you can, just look at all these green plates coming. Green plate after green plate. There's a Marvel, that blue one. Marvel R. Green plate after green plate after green plate. You know, and that's another reason why, if you're here for NIO content, or you're a NIO fan or NIO investor, you know, competition's tough out here, man. I really think NIO should somehow, some way, find a way to get into the States, if it's at all possible, because in America, you drive around, it's just Tesla, a few Mach-E's. You know, you might see a few other cars. You might see a few VW ID4s or whatever. You might see Rivians now. I saw a couple when I was in the States. I saw one Lucid in San Francisco. That was cool. But you don't have that much competition. Like here, we have just massive amounts of EVs everywhere. That's why it's EV paradise and EV heaven. And so, although NIO has, you know, some of the better cars in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, they're not the only game in town. So if you can get an Aion for, you know, 179,000 or 200,000 RMB, or you can get a Model 3 for around 200,000 RMB now, or you can get, you know, Xpeng's not doing so hot, but there's other cars that are pretty good for a really good price. Whereas NIO, of course, you got to pay more, but you get more. You do get more. But it's no surprise that demand is not quite there due to what I've seen from, you know, the economy here and what you see from the competition here. It's like not everybody buys a car because they really want like the coolest, latest car. Not everybody buys a car just for face, just for prestige. Some people buy a car because they need something to get around. And so why buy a NIO for 300,000 or 400,000 when you can get it for 189,000? You can get something else, you know? So it's tough, but I do think the battery swap network and NIO House and all that stuff does provide an advantage for NIO. And so I guess that leads me into NIO House now. Let's talk about NIO House. I was at the NIO House yesterday, the newest one in Shenzhen. It's in Hohai. You may have seen me go to the one in Futian before in Shenzhen. You may have seen me go to the one in Qianhai, but this one is in Hohai. And there was like 3 or 4 people in there sitting around having drinks, but it was like 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. on a weekday. And so, you know, I still see people comment like after the earnings report that NIO needs to stop investing in NIO houses, things like that. And you know, from my perspective, I'll tell you what I think. Let these girls sit down first, so I don't bother them with my incessant rambling. But my perspective is this: from my experience doing some retail in China, albeit 4 or 5 years ago, professionally, and then my own little cafe. Usually they lock you in for 5 or even 10 years for a lease. So a 10-year lease, you know, in 10 years time, the price is going to be a lot higher. I think these are investments in the future. Right now there's 300,000 NIO users in China, right? And so, yeah, the NIO houses generally aren't very busy. Part of it has been because of COVID. And now COVID's over and we saw, you know, there's a few people there, but not that many. But I think that in 5 years' time, there will probably be 2 or 3 million NIO users in China. And so if there's 10 times as many NIO users in China in 5 years than there are now, those 3 NIO users sitting there having coffee at a NIO house will be 30 or 40 or 50. And again, like, that's not that much. You know, a cafe, they need to have constant turnover. A lot of people coming through if they want to make money. But also you got to remember it's a sales center. And you also got to remember it's a huge sales point to have the NIO community. I've talked about it before. I think the NIO community is great. I've done so many activities with NIO. You know, being able to go to like NIO Day or just weekly activities like learn how to make coffee or do frisbee golf, not frisbee golf, ultimate frisbee, any of this stuff. Like you meet people, play board games at the NIO house. They might not be huge money makers for NIO. They might even like theoretically lose money, right? But it's a selling point. And I think, as you can see, this market is super crowded in China. There's so many EVs. So they need to have a unique selling point. Because like, let's take a look at WEIMA. You guys know WEIMA, Waymeister? That used to be an EV that had quite a few. There was quite a few of them driving around. And they were pretty early, I think. I remember WEIMA, you know, probably 3-4 years ago. Don't quote me on that, but probably around there. A lot of people were doing Didi driving in WEIMA. You see a lot of them on the road before. Now I never see them, I never hear about them. And what was their selling point? What made them unique? Back then they were just one of the earlier EVs that were kind of being mass produced, I think. And I don't know what their numbers were, I haven't checked, but you used to see them. And now, as you've seen in this drive, you see a lot of Aions, you see a lot of NIOs, quite a few Xpengs, quite a few Teslas, of course. There's a Zeekr right in front of us. There's a lot of new cars out here. And just being an EV isn't enough for a lot of these brands, I think. There's a Li, this is what, Li 8? I think, without the LiDAR, maybe, or maybe a Li 1. Oh, Li 8, yeah. Cool. So now I've seen a Li 8. Oh, and there's a HiPhi X over there. Let's go take a look. It's parked on the road. I'll go get to it. So like HiPhi X, HiPhi Z, they have their unique selling point. NIO has their unique selling point. You know, I don't know what Aions is except that they can make a lot of them and deliver them quick, and they're pretty cheap. But I'd like to go take a test drive sometime. But I feel like there's a lot of brands that have disappeared or have not been doing as well. I do believe WEIMA is still around. I haven't heard of them going under. I even think they launched in Europe, I think. But I don't see them doing so well. So here we go, here's a HiPhi X. If you guys haven't watched my HiPhi X video at their launch event, please go watch it. It's a very interesting car, not my favorite car, but very interesting. It costs about $1 million, or sorry, 100,000 bucks, about 1 million RMB. And the HiPhi Z that launched, I think, a couple months ago, slightly cheaper. I think it starts at 600,000 RMB, but I have yet to see one. Anyway, my point is NIO House is a selling point, and it does bring people in. And you know, they put the investment in now, which costs a lot of money up front, is what I'm trying to say, when there's not that many users, but the costs are lower now than they will be in the future. And in the future, when you have 2, 3, 4 million new users in China, those NIO houses should be quite busy. And the other thing people say is they're probably really expensive to design. And some of the flagship ones like Chongqing, Beijing, Shanghai, they have some amazing design, or even Oslo. You know, they're very unique, special design. Take some of the local features into play, like in Oslo with the fjords kind of design, or Chongqing, also built around the river. What I'm saying is they don't all have any special design. Like that NIO house I went to yesterday, you'll see in the ET5 video, it's basically just an empty room, just a box, and it has some, you know, similar design elements to all the rest of them, but I don't think they're paying some massive Dutch design firm or something to do that one, or a lot of the other ones. I think they're just kind of copying and pasting basic design elements, like, you know, like a typical Apple store versus a flagship Apple store. You'll see that most of them are all kind of the same, just some tables sitting around and some iPhones and some computers. But then you get like the flagship stores in Shanghai, or a flagship store in, I don't know what other cities they have Apple flagship stores in. They're different. They're a little bit more special. And so I do think that, I mean, the cost is high, but I think it pays to get the locations now, get the market share, the mind share now, and then in the future, if NIO can continue to grow their brand like they are planning to, then it's not such a huge waste of money and time, and they can be sources of community and hopefully money in the future too. Another Zeekr. But now, yeah, with COVID and with you know, only 300,000 users, it kind of makes sense why they're not that busy. There's 100 NIO houses now, I think, and 300,000 users. You're not going to be going every day unless you work in that shopping center or that office tower above a NIO house. You might go, especially if you have a lot of points. But I don't think it's a bad idea. Just now it doesn't look that great based on what we've seen on their financial reports. But one thing I do like about NIO is they do seem to be planning for the future. They're looking very far ahead. Already working on Generation 3 platform, which I guess will probably be launched next year. You know, you look at Tesla, for example, and they have the same cars. And yes, launching new cars is expensive. You know, it's not like doing a phone every year, right? It's not like launching a new iPhone. People aren't changing cars every year unless they got a lot of money. But I don't know. I think that they're very forward-looking. Maybe they move too fast. I know I did see Mr. P. I don't, you know, always agree with Mr. P. He's my boy. But he's like, you know, they took too long from announcing the ET7 to launching it, to providing it to customers. Besides, there was all the COVID stuff, but I mean, you look at what Tesla's done with Cybertruck or a Roadster, they still aren't delivering to customers. And yes, as you can see, the Chinese market moves very, very quickly. So I guess you should quickly deliver what you announce, because things change so fast. But at the same time, they don't need to be developing a new car every year and announcing them. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm kind of rambling at this point. And I went too far. I didn't want to walk over here. Go through this parking lot here. See what we can find. My point is, NIO's future looking, forward thinking. Always forward is what they say. It doesn't mean everything's going to be a hit, but I do appreciate that they seem to be just pushing and planning for a world where they have, you know, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million users in China. Right now they have 300,000. They have 1,300 battery swap stations. They're going to have 2,300 by the end of this year. You know, it's crazy how fast they're moving. Probably a lot of those stations are underutilized, but give it a year or two time. You know, if you build it, they will come. So that was one thing Mr. P did say. I did see his video. He said there was that town where there was like, they built a swap station in a small town, and now there's 500 NIO users there, which is exactly the point of what they're doing. And I think William Lee said that in the conference call after the earnings report. So same type of thing. If you build it, they will come. It doesn't look great now, but in a year or two, when they're not building so much, but they're delivering 30, 40,000 cars a month, if they can achieve that target, then it's going to be, it's going to look a whole lot different. All right. So, another Zeekr. That's our third Zeekr. White one over there. So we have yet to see an ET5. Let's see if we can spot one before we go. You know, it's funny, the first time I did this walk, or similar walk to this, I think we saw like 9 NIOs. We saw like 6 Xpengs. I think it was like 5 Lees. This was like 2 years ago, right? And now, now we see, I don't know, I've passed probably easily 10 or 12 NIOs at least. Although the walk is almost over, so the numbers haven't changed too much. But I do remember on those times I was walking around at rush hour, and now is not rush hour, now is 2 p.m. on a weekday. But back then we didn't have so much. We only had a handful of cars, plus tons of BYD and tons of Tesla. And now we have so much more. All right, so let's talk about no more electric cars. Let's talk about Thailand and what's going on there, because I know people are like happy probably to see me back in China, but it's only temporary. At least that's the plan. So I was gonna get the education visa in Thailand, but technically you're supposed to be outside the country to pick it up or to apply for it. And so my goal here is to get the education visa while I'm outside of Thailand, like I'm supposed to do, even though people say you can technically, theoretically get it through kind of shady means while you're in Thailand. But you know, I thought it was a good idea to come to China, hang out for a bit. And also I do want to go to Japan for a while. So the problem is if you get the education visa, which I'd like to do is get it for a year so I can rent an apartment for a year and do all that sort of thing. If you do that, you're not supposed to, again, you're not supposed to technically leave the country for more than a month during that year while you're doing your education there. So I want to try to get all my travel, everything out of my system before I get the visa and before I really settle down and live there. So my plan is actually stay in China for a little while and then go to Japan, hopefully for like a month, maybe 2, and then probably apply for the Thai education visa in Japan, get that, and then from Japan, I guess I have to come back to China and get some stuff, pack up everything, try to figure out how to get the dog to Thailand, and then at that point, move to Thailand. And then life will be sweet. I will be fully retired, I guess. And I'm gonna try to learn Thai and do Muay Thai and fight people in the boxing gym or in the ring and just enjoy my life, which I'm already doing. I'm already enjoying my life. And thank you for all the people again who have reached out to me, who have cared, who said, where have you been? You haven't been posting videos. I've been doing all kinds of stuff, but you know, I don't always want to be online. I don't always want to be making videos. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes I'm just, whatever. It's not my career, it's not my job. I don't, you know, I really do appreciate people who want to watch or people want to see what's going on. People are interested and they care for whatever reason. It does mean a lot to me. But I also really enjoy just like doing whatever I want without making content. You know, maybe if I was making $1 million from it, I'd take it more seriously. But Probably the reason why I'm not making $1 million from it is because I don't take it seriously. So caught me in a catch-22. Catch-22. All right. Chi-Ray, that's a cherry right there. BYD. So actually we're gonna come up here. There's gonna be a really big parking lot on the left. And I would suspect there will be at least one ET5 in there because I'm kind of shocked we haven't seen an ET5 yet. Oh, I guess before we get up there, one other thing is, right now I'm in Shenzhen, like I said, and I'm going back to my old boxing gym. So I'm continuing my fitness plan, my weight loss plan. You know, I'm 38 years old. It's really important for me to not become super overweight. And it's always been a challenge. I'm sure a lot of people understand this. It's always been a challenge to stay fit, stay in shape, stay healthy. It's easy to become sedentary, especially when I was working in an office. It was horrible. I gained so much weight despite all my best efforts. And now I don't have a job for like 3 years. So I really have no excuse not to be in the best shape of my life, even though I am 38 years old. But so I've been going to the gym in Thailand for a couple weeks. Boxing gym, Muay Thai gym in China, boxing gym. Been lifting weights, been trying to eat healthier. I've lost about 5 kilos already, which my goal is probably about 20 kilos to lose, which is gonna be tough. Right now I'm at 96 kilos as of today, which is far too fat for a person who's 5'11". That's like 215 pounds or something. So I would like to get somewhere closer to like 190, 180 maybe. Probably the last time I really felt good about myself physically, I was about 78 kilograms. So that was a while back. I think I was like 27, 28 years old. And my office had a gym in it, and I went every day at lunch. That was in Shanghai. 28 years old, I guess. Maybe if I throw up a picture right here. If you're still here at this point in time, I'm gonna put up a picture of me 10 or so years ago when I was working in Shanghai and I was fit. So here's a Zeekr right next to a Model X. You can see the Zeekr about the same length, maybe a little longer. Can't get back far enough to get them both. Another NIO here. So I don't know, why don't you guys tell me your stories? Again, if you made it this far, how do you do with your struggle or no struggle to lose weight or to stay in shape or to be fit, be healthy, especially as you get up into middle age, which somehow I'm getting closer to the middle age. I don't quite understand. I don't quite get it. Seems like just yesterday I was in college. And now I can't even remember who my teachers' names were. Might be too many drugs and too many times hit in the head. Who knows? So still no ET5, huh? Kind of shocking. But we're still in this big parking lot. We still have a chance. I gotta go to a shopping center with a big charging station. Then we'll find some cars. Or maybe go to a power swap station, see what's going on there. See what mostly comes. Is it mostly old cars, NT 1.0, or is it mostly newer cars? People upgraded or new customers? Who knows? Maybe there will be time to do that. Another Geely. Another NIO EC6. So one thing I want to do, guys, is I want to get an EC7. Not buy, because I'm not going to be living here in China. At least that's not the plan. But I would love to get my hands on an EC7. Or any car, really. But ideally an EC7 so I can compare it to my old car. Here's another L9, Nissan 9. Compare it to my old car. But I would love if NIO could lend one to me. I got to ask them. Somehow lend one to me with a 150 kilowatt hour battery. And I would love to see how far or how many swaps it would take to get across China. I think that would be an amazing video. Like a cannonball run across China, like here to Tibet or here to I don't know, Beijing, somewhere. Just swapping, just drive nonstop. Maybe you can get from here to Beijing on like 3 swaps. Who knows? That would be awesome though. That would be a lot of fun for me. I gotta pitch it to NIO somehow. What do you guys think? Would that be something you wanna see? ID6, Lishan 1. Oh, another HiPhi. Blue one. And it has a person in it, so I won't get too close. Purple-ish blue, looks pretty cool. Such a big car. This lady's like, how am I gonna get out? I can't do it. Another Li, tons of Li's these days. Li 1. Okay, looks like Li's doing better than they used to be doing in Shenzhen. Felt like a long time ago, Li was the least seen in Shenzhen out of the kind of the big 3 stock market favorites, I guess you could say. Li, Xpeng, and NIO. But now it seems like there's quite a few Li's, maybe even as many as NIO, from what I've seen just today walking around. Obviously, this doesn't give a full entire representation, clear picture of everywhere in Shenzhen, or it's just a snapshot in time. That's all it is. But it does kind of give you a little bit of info about what's going on out here. Looks like there's another BYD seal down there. Let's go take a look. I think that's what it is, parked. And we're almost done with this walk, so I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been 47 minutes of burn some calories, I guess. I hope that helps me in my quest to lose weight. Maybe it's not a seal. Pretty sure it's a BYD though, which shouldn't come as a surprise. A lot of BYDs around. Oh no, it's an Xpeng. Dang it. P5. Xpeng P5. Which I think Xpeng thought they would do better with this car, but it's just so fugly. The P7 looks cool. I don't love driving it, but at least it looks nice. This car is just weird looking. I don't get it. And the G3 was also weird looking. At least the G9 seems to be a little bit cooler, but I haven't really seen it except for that one we just saw when we first started this walk today. And yeah, the Lishan 9 looks pretty cool. But I think the EC7 looks the best. I mean, come on. You gotta give it to the EC7. With that spoiler, that coupe hatchback kind of design. I like it. Another NIO over there, ES8 passed by, I think. Another NIO, EC6, or ES6. And we're gonna try to catch, oh, there's an Aion. That's a cool one. You see those a lot now. One other car we haven't seen yet today that I've seen quite a few times on my last couple of days here in China, as I'm not sure what it is, but the logo looks like Pontiac. It's like a triangle. And I've seen it. It looks like a brand new car. At first I thought it was the Alibaba car, the IM, but it wasn't that. Once I got close to it, I saw it, but it didn't say what it was on the back. So if anybody knows what I'm talking about, I can't show you it, but yeah, it has like a triangle, looks like a Pontiac. And there's another HiPhi X over there, an orange one. My camera says I have 3 minutes left on this SD card. So, and I'm almost back to where I started. So this is pretty much the end. We're gonna see another HiPhi X. We're not gonna see any NIO ET5s. And no Xpeng P9 or G9s in customer hands. No EL7s or ES7s. Just a ton of Aions, really. A ton of Teslas, a ton of BYDs. Very sad. Here's another Aion right here. coming right for me. Two minutes left. Another Aion over there. EV paradise, EV heaven. Another Aion. These little ID4 looking Aions are everywhere now. And like I said, so many of them are DDs or share cars. So many. Anything. All right, a minute left. Well, since I only got a minute left on my battery, thank you all for watching, or my SD card. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this walk around Shenzhen. I hope you had a good time sharing another beautiful, warm spring day with me here in this exciting city, Shenzhen. It's just nothing but EVs and skyscrapers and Dianpingche. Oh, there's a BaoJun. Cool, we got one. There he goes. And that's that. All right, see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. If you want to subscribe, do it. If you don't, I don't care. Do your own thing. Do whatever you want. 40 seconds, it says. See if this parking lot has an ET5. There's another Li, L8. Lots of Lis. They're doing very well. Very, very well. Anything, nothing. So that's my rambling done. 10 seconds left. Goodbye. See you later. Bye bye. Adios. Auf Wiedersehen. Zaijian. Bye bye. Okay. So my SD card got full, but here's an ArcFox, which is the first time I've ever seen one in real life, not in the auto show. So there you go. It's one ArcFox, but this isn't the one I'm talking about that looks like Pontiac. This is looks like a fox, different kind of triangle. Still looking for an ET5 or anything. I was in the Marvel. Okay, cool. I'm still looking for that Pontiac looking one. The car looked pretty cool. Okay, we got one. ET5, brand new, no license plate. ET5, here we go. Blue. Haha, we made it. At least we got one. There's also 3 NIOs right here. There's one NIO EC6 white, and there's 2 blue NIO ES6s right here. One after the other. So there are a lot of NIOs around. Of course, as you know. Another NIO. The ES6 update is going to do very, 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 very well. That's going to really help the company. I don't know if it's going to help the stock or not, but we can pray. ES6 is everywhere. Okay, riding my scooter home, and there's an ET5 black one over there, so that's our number 2 today. So it took a while, but now they're popping out.